Okay, as well as graphing the data, which is probably the ultimate thing we want to do as we check and display and maybe publish our record from our sites, we may want to list the data as well. Listing it's very handy and producing tables and printouts. So if we go, for example, just a river level site, here we've got stage here. So if we want to see this in a listed printed form, if we go to under table, we've got this option called list. So list comes up with several options here. We can list the series data, or this data here, the series data to the screen. We can list the ratings to the screen, but we're not looking at ratings at the moment. We can list the series data to a list file. List file is listed below here. We have to specify, which is just a text file. It's going to be outputted to a text file. We can then maybe send that to someone who wants it just in a basic form. We can actually use it for editing at that point and bring it back in maybe to Tideda. So you've got the option to go to a list file and with a rating as well. We won't worry about the batch file at this stage. But the most common one is a list series to the screen. So if we go OK, again we can go and check our data, other options here, but it's probably going to list what we have on the screen at the moment. So you can see here it comes up with the site number and name again, the data period, and our stage in millimeters, and the date and time. So quite handy. You can pull down the bar here, scroll through, you can see the water level changing and the days going past. Good if you want to look at individual, in this case 5-minute readings. You can see the time there every 5 minutes and the stage reading changing. So yeah, useful for that. Now another thing you might want to do, if we go back to that site again, you can see the data runs from 1982 to 2015. So we can also run some other programs over. So under table there's things like calendar. We can do daily, monthly, weekly, monthly, or hourly stats on it. But a common one is probably monthly. And we check obviously we want our day starting at 0, which is midnight. We don't want any multipliers, dividing or adding at this point. We're going to check our data. So if we go from say the start of the record right through, so that's all the record we're selecting here, and we're looking at stage, we can go OK to that, and then OK. It's now doing calculation. You can see it working through the years, and it gives us for each year, it gives us the month, the mean stage in this case, because we're looking at stage in millimeters here. So the printouts over the months, also the mean for that year, and down the bottom we'll have, I'll just scroll down slightly, you've got min, mean, max stats for each month too over that period. So there's some useful stats to be had under your table calendar. So we've got the weekly, daily. Daily's interesting for maybe for rainfall. There's other stats too which give us summaries, but that's something that we'll look at too at a more advanced stage. So displaying rainfall data is quite handy too. So if we go to our dune site here, you can see the rainfall plot, and if we go table, list data to screen, we can see each individual tip. In this case it's 0.5 millimeter tips. This is in micrometers, so 500. And if we scroll down here, you can see it getting heavier, rain events, so we're getting 2 tips there, up to 4 tips, which is 200 in a 5-minute period, so quite heavy rain through here. So another good way to list it and see what the data looks like, and where the rain falls. But if you want to list that under our calendar, it's very handy to do daily. So again, if we go to our data and maybe select the first half of this year, so we're going from the 1st of January, let's get rid of a 0, to July, and we've got presentation units, not micrometers but millimeters. If we OK that and then list that, you'll see it will give us daily totals. So this is in millimeters. So this site has a lot of rainfall. So see, this day had 100 millimeters. So 50s, we're getting zeros some days, high counts as the storm goes through. So it gives us day of the month, month of the year, and any question marks, of course, is missing data or data that hasn't happened yet. So another useful one, rainfall with totals, maxes as well, and mins. And probably the only extra one you'd be of interest would be flow. So if we go to a flow site again and calendar, again probably monthly this time like we did for stage, check our data, and let's go for all the record, litres per second. And if we OK that, you've got litres there. So on January, the months, you've got the years and the mean flow for that month. So that January 1997, the mean flow was 1.185 cumex, or 1,185 litres. So quite handy for clients, people want to know what the flow's doing. So probably the last thing, and maybe the best thing we need to cover, is a thing called quick extremes. So this is under our table, quick extremes, the first one here, just above our list we've been using. So quick extremes is really nice for looking at the extreme end of our data, or a batch of data that we select. So let's go to our data again. Maybe we'll stay with our Sutton stream file. So if I just select maybe the last week's data, 15, maybe the month 01, we can look at that and it'll give us over that period of time what the mean value was, the max and the min, which is quite handy. Here it is here again. If we're looking for maybe what was the peak stage or flood over that period, we can pick that out. And the other thing it's really useful for is, if we go back to here, this time we'll pick up all our data, so the whole record, and we're going to leave these as defaults, but display yearly summaries. It's very handy. And as we let that run, you'll see you've got every year from the start of the record through to the end of the record. We've got the mean for that year, the minimum date and time, maximum date and time. So mean, minimum, max over that for that particular year, and then at the end we have the minimum over the whole record when it occurred, maximum, and the mean over the whole record. So very useful information, something to remember. So that's under table quick extremes.